Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Before we get to the introduction, I want to give you a little background on this episode. So this was an interview that I did as the host of a different podcast, which is the CUE at UMD podcast. I interviewed these two girls who won the UMD Startup Cup, and I had them share a little bit about their experience as cultural entrepreneurship majors. If you're interested in checking out this podcast, you can find it on any streaming service at CUE at UMD. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Student Built Startups Podcast, episode 45. I'm your host, Cameron Stone, entrepreneur and recent grad from the University of Minnesota Duluth, where I studied marketing analytics and management information systems. I interview young entrepreneurs to share their stories and business strategies. On today's episode, we have two guests. They will be sharing their experience as cultural entrepreneurship majors at UMD and how it has influenced their business development process. They're currently partners on a brand new startup that won the most innovative idea at UMD's Startup Cup competition. Their business is designed to help tourists connect with local people, sort of as tour guides. If you want to follow along on their journey, you can check out Madi Brenengen on Instagram. She'll be posting updates along the way as they go through the process of developing their business idea. Now, I am absolutely thrilled to be having Madi Brenengen and Allyson Hilgeman on the SBS podcast today. Hey, Allyson and Madi, I am super excited to talk to you today about your experience at the Startup Cup at UMD and your experience within the cultural entrepreneurship major here at UMD. So if you guys want to start by maybe sharing one kind of crazy or interesting fact about yourself, that would be really great.
Yes, hello. I would say a crazy fact about me, kind of cool and crazy, is this year I built a guitar from scratch because I was bored and had nothing else to do.
That's pretty crazy.
I don't really have anything interesting, but I would say my favorite animals are guinea pigs, and I can speak a Guatemalan dialect.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I feel like there's not too many people around here that kind of are able to speak that Guatemalan dialect.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Very cool. Well, if you guys maybe want to share a little bit about your background, such as your like education here at UMD, kind of a basic overview of kind of like what you're studying and kind of where your entrepreneurial interests began.
So I am currently a junior at UMD, studying cultural entrepreneurship and Spanish. And I actually found out about the CUBE program because my current roommate, she's like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And she's like, Madi, she's like, I heard about this cool program today. You should check it out. So I checked it out, and then I think like a week later, I met with Aparna Khatri, who is the director of the program, and decided that it was a pretty neat opportunity. So that's pretty much where my interest in the CUBE program started.
Very cool. What about you, Allyson?
So I'm like 4.5 years in. So I'm graduating this summer. I started as a psych major, but then I realized that's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with people, but not kind of like in the psychological manner. I wanted to more like be involved in the community, but understand business and culture and be able to like incorporate all of that. So I actually jumped from psychology to urban studies, then to cultural anthropology. And then through cultural anthropology, I found cultural entrepreneurship. And I fell in love, and it just kind of like opened up this huge door of like passion. And I felt like, wow, like I really connected with something. And then I got to know Dr. Khatri, and it was like my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting how you kind of had this path that you like bounced from one thing to another, but it almost was always guiding you towards this cultural entrepreneurship. That's pretty interesting that you kind of like landed here in this spot and fell in love with it. So I guess if one of you want to share about like what cultural entrepreneurship really is, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now that don't really have a full understanding of like what cultural entrepreneurship is and how it's different from traditional entrepreneurship.
I mean, for me personally, cultural entrepreneurship is kind of embodying almost every area of study in one major. So it's kind of studying business, the ability to market, to learn how to, but it like incorporates the culture and the importance of understanding people, learning other languages, because it's like embodying that, I don't know, for the world to function, because we're innovating all the time and evolving. we have to understand everybody. So cultural entrepreneurship kind of embodies that idea that we work with business, organizations, strategic management, but also like understanding ethics, morals, values, and understanding cultures and languages.
Very cool.
Yeah, and just to expand on it a little bit, it's like really looking at the creative economies and how they function, and kind of expand, just like learning the behind the scenes of how they function. So things like art, literature, music, and then cultural activities like sports. I guess music is a cultural activity, food, and how that impacts the local economies.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and from my experience in the one cultural entrepreneurship class that I'm taking, one thing that I've noticed kind of from an outside perspective is that it really puts it kind of strays away from the transactional feeling of a regular traditional entrepreneurial business, and really focuses more along like having like a purpose and a mission, and trying to achieve something to better a certain area or group of people or something like that.
Definitely. And a lot of this major too is doing group projects and community work. Because I know Cameron, we're in the same class right now, and it's like it's purely based on community work and interviewing the community and figuring out how they will interact with a certain situation. And then other classes me and Allison have taken have been like, why is Duluth's creative economy so good? What has it been impacted by? And then, of course, working in group projects on pretty much every Q class, and getting paired up with mentors around Duluth and really connecting with the community, which I think was a big thing for me in my education. I'm not just reading a textbook. It's like, I don't think you hardly ever read unless you're researching something in the Q major. It's more of exploring with the community and doing group work and working with people and creating that bond.
Yeah, very cool. And I would second that from my experience as well. And then kind of like bouncing off of that, we can maybe talk a little bit about how the Q major is different from like a traditional major you would think of when you go into college. And like, what are kind of the minute differences that it has and kind of your educational experience?
I would say it's very proactive, kind of like what Madi just said. We're always getting involved, whether it's with other community organizations or with each other as students and classmates in creating projects. I would say it's different too, kind of like what you touched on earlier, that culture entrepreneurship specifically emphasizes meaning and kind of world connectedness. And like you said, we focus more on seeing people and businesses as like from an emotional perspective and wanting everyone to feel important and valued, rather than like other majors that might just kind of focus on, a task, the numbers, revenue generation. At least that's how I see culture entrepreneurship versus other majors. I think something that I love is it gives you real world skills, because Dr. Katri, for example, in all of her courses, she always has us practicing like what we would have to do in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, Allison, I'm just working on a project right now. It's like calculating the financial sales of our business, like projections in the next 3 years. And we're like, how do we do this? We have no idea because it's all in the hypothetical. But after doing it, you kind of realize like, this is the reason we're doing it, to actually understand, how something like this works. But it can be it's a lot of work and it can be very difficult sometimes. But in the end, I think what I'm starting to realize is you're really learning a lot. I mean, without the culture entrepreneurship course that we're in right now, me and Allison wouldn't even be where we are today. So it's just great that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I guess from an outside perspective, again, one thing I've noticed is just like the kind of the major itself seems kind of small and like a tight knit group of people. And it's like you get to really know the people that you're going to class with and kind of build relationships with them, which is another cool aspect, because I know there's a lot of other majors that are much larger and you don't really get to know people quite as well in those smaller groups, I guess. So regarding the Q major and your experience with, I guess, coming up with your idea for the Startup Cup, how has the Q major given you kind of a framework to follow and helped you come up with your idea and given you the ability to think about problems and solutions differently?
Yeah, so the idea was actually generated through a global entrepreneurship course that I took when I studied abroad in Chile. So it's kind of apart from our foundational Q courses. It was a little bit different. Um, but it being in a place abroad, and Allyson had this experience too. I know it's like you really understand how important culture is and how you want to explore, local spots, and you want to explore the local culture and learn the local language and learn the local slang terms. And I think being immersed in that environment is how the idea really formed. But then now coming into the second semester, well, it's like a 2-part semester course technically. So now coming into the second part of the semester, the second semester course, we have really learned about how to actually frame your idea, how to take it to the next level, how to create a growth plan, how to do the financials, how to pitch it. So yeah, it just gives you a lot of background on how to really create and develop a business through the lens of people and not numbers.
Allyson, did you have anything that you wanted to add regarding that?
I agree with everything Madi just said. Because what she said when she was in Chile, I was in Australia and I studied in Mexico for a little bit, like for Witness for Peace, where we studied the political, economic, and sustainability effects of U.S. policy. And I think going through the Q major really allowed me to see things through a lens when I would go abroad, and I would look, or like what Madi was saying, we look at businesses or we look at situations and we see that people aren't happy. And it's kind of like, what can we do to make this better for everybody? And then in regards to Q and how it has played into like Madi and I and our project, I honestly probably would have never met Madi.
Definitely. And it's fun because, as Allyson said, we're all there to support each other. I think our class has eight people in it, 9 people in it, something like that. So we really have gotten a very like intimate relationship with our classmates, and we know that they're there to support us and we're there to support them in their creative business ventures. And they also know a lot about our product, as well as we are able to know a lot about their product that they're developing because of our such a small class.
And one thing that I wanted to touch on, one thing that you said, how you have the Q major helps you have a lens to look at things through, like the lens of like people and not numbers. And for my experience in my one class, that was a big challenge for me because I'm a marketing analytics major. So my job is to be like strictly look at the numbers and understand people in that sense. So it's really cool for me to have the opportunity to kind of see things from that other lens to give me kind of a full like rounded view of how to approach these things, and that there's not necessarily one way that's going to give you the entire lens of a group of people or a singular person. So one other thing I wanted to chat about was kind of how the Q major has like helped you personally grow as like an innovator, a professional, and as just a person in general.
Yeah. Good question. No, so I think that the Q program, for me at least, like the first thing that pops to my mind when you ask that question is the confidence that it's created, as well as like the fire that it's ignited. I've always been passionate about culture, and I just didn't know in what way I could actually make like how do you make culture a career, or how do you make culture a job? And I think that the Q program has really opened my eyes to see, hey, there's so much in the creative industries that you can work with, that you can do. And also just like, if you want to create a business, go for it. Don't hold back. Build your networks, build your connections. And through the class that we've taken, we've built a lot of different connections. And they have, I mean, pretty much like our 2 main mentors that we've talked to have both been like, go for it. Like, this idea is good. You're in a solid place. You have a lot of support. So I think building that confidence through the mentors and through Parna and through taking the courses and learning just a little bit more has been really important and really key for the future of my life.
Yeah, mine's kind of just short. It's kind of like when I first started the course this semester, I told Madi, I was like, I'm never running a business. Like I'm not, this is not for me. we had like this simulation activity where we had to run our own business. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was just horrible. I'm pretty sure I placed like last for success. So I was like, I just can't do it. And now like, look at Madi and I, like we have a growth plan. Like we want to start our own business. So I guess that shows like how the course has like helped me grow as a person, but I never thought I would. I was like, nope.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about it yesterday. Me and Allison were about how like in the beginning she was like never, and now we're like, so what's our next steps in starting our business?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And one thing I kind of noticed from talking to you two, it seems like you two kind of have qualities that pair well with each other. And I think part of that initially not wanting to like run a business kind of displays kind of some of those underlying traits that would be, I'm trying to say like that would work well with somebody else with a different set of abilities. I cannot think of the word for the life of me that I was thinking.
Oh, like complementary?
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. No, definitely. Madi and I think me and her, like we've always been told we look kind of serious when we're on like face calls and stuff, but I think Madi's kind of like the funness and like the like good talking with people and stuff. And I'm definitely more of the kind of like I don't know, but we work really well together. She definitely like has qualities that I think we've talked about this kind of that balance each other.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you strive to have in some sort of business partnership. If you're looking for more stories from inspirational entrepreneurs, check out the Serial Entrepreneur from Startups Magazine, a print and digital publication that champions tech startups. Here, their editor, Anna Flockett, interviews the most innovative startups of the moment with some startup lessons and failure fables, as well as a sprinkling of inspirational advice. You can find them by searching The Serial Entrepreneur, as in your breakfast, into any streaming service or by going to startupsmagazine.co.uk. So I'm really interested to hear kind of about the story regarding the pitch competition that you guys won Most Innovative Idea in. So what was your experience like with that? And if you want to share a little bit about the process and what that looked like, that would be cool too.
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird start to it. So Aparna, our professor, had mentioned this program, and I had messaged Allison. I was like, do we want to do this? We weren't like so gung-ho on our idea yet. So we're like, it's a lot of work. Do we want to do it? And eventually we're like, you know what, let's just do it. What's the worst that can happen? So we had to submit an application form. And I remember it was due on I don't even know, a Wednesday or whatever. And we were in class, and it for some reason just remembered that it was due. And I was texting Elsa. I was like, did we ever fill out the application for this competition? And she's like, honestly, I'm doing it right now. So it was kind of luckily we had a lot of background from class that we were able to kind of compile in our interview or in the application. So then we got selected for an interview and interviewed with 3 or 4 people that were kind of on the board, I guess you could say, for this Startup Cup. And then, yeah, Allison, you can take it.
Well, yeah, so we were basically told we got accepted for the competition out of like the 5 teams. We were one of them that went to the final as the finalists, I guess. And we were told we were going to get assigned a mentor. So then in a few weeks, we got an email saying like, oh, this woman is going to be your mentor. And yeah, like that's it. And then we emailed her, and it was this woman named Janelle. She's amazing. She's an amazing woman. And we started to meet with her, and I could tell like when we first met with her, she was kind of like, oh my gosh, these girls, I don't know, they don't really know anything, do they? And we were like, no. So then we met with her like consecutively every week, and I don't know, it was interesting. And then by the end, when we got the dates of the competition, Madi and we put in a lot of work for the competition, a ton. Like it was like meeting. And then Dr. Kadri, like she's our professor, and Madi, she's in 3 courses and I'm in 2. So it was like Dr. Kadri every single day, our mentors like every day. And it was like so many video calls. I told Madi, like, I've never had so many meetings in my life. but it was so worth it. Me and her, like, I think we fell in love with working on it. We definitely, like, it kind of dominated our life for a while. We were very focused on, like, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, what's our pitch going to be like? What are our numbers? Like, and we were just learning though. That was like the most beautiful part, is we were learning the entire way. And then our mentor at the end, like when we were running our pitch by her before the competition, she said, I wish I had a recording of you two when I first met you to now. And we were like, oh my gosh, that would have been so cringy. But and then the competition itself, it was very interesting. I'll let Madi talk a little bit about that, but it was fun. It was just very interesting.
Yeah. So I think with the competition, it's a very hard competition to facilitate over Zoom, and I think that was a big problem. Not problem, just a big impacted a lot of our experience, I should say. But yeah, we went on the Zoom call. I think there was like 150 participants. There was a lot of like not participants, audience members. Sorry. There's only
You're going to be there for like 12
no,
hours.
there's only 5 participants. And I think there was like 150 audience members or something like that. And we happened to be the first ones pitching. So we had no idea what to expect. We just knew we had 5 minutes, and we had 5 minutes to answer judges' questions. So, we pitched our idea. We had a little bit of technical difficulties in the start. But towards the end, it really got smoothed out, and it was really fun to be able to pitch something that we were so passionate about to judges that were like listening to us and ready basically to judge us and ask us all the questions and challenge us to think outside the box. And one thing that we had to be really careful of, like, I think I texted Allyson right before I was like, we need to smile and talk slow. Because as she said before, we seem very serious over when we're like in class or something. So I texted her right before. I was like, serious, talk slow, don't talk fast. And I'm not sure how well we did on those things, but that's what we tried to do at least. So
yeah, I feel like those are two things that you forget when you get up on stage and start doing something. It's like immediately it's just gone.
Yep, pretty much, yeah. So then we had the judges' questions, which we were so prepared for. Not to toot our own horns or anything, but we did pretty good on them, which is in part because of our mentor, Janelle. Amazing person. We actually I just looked over at my phone, or like before the meeting, and I was like, oh, we have a message from her, a text message from her waiting for us. So, but yeah, so the judges asked us questions, and then for 5 minutes, and then the next people presented, and there was 5 more presentations, and the judge asked them questions. And it was really fun to watch everybody's different presentations. And there was one guy in particular, the guy that actually won the grand prize. His presentation was very different. It was more of a dialogue than like slides. It was kind of fun. He had a costume on, and he had like some props and stuff, so that was kind of cool. But then they announced the prizes afterwards, which was hard for me because my internet went out. So like somebody texted me congrats. I think my mom texted me congrats, and I was like, I don't know what I'm being congratulated on. So that kind of sucked, but that was just because of technical difficulties. That was nothing to do with the Startup Cup at all. But and then it ended, and here's where I think that it would have been much better in person, because it's like, the call ended, and then I think that was it. And then it was like dead silent in my room, and I was like, what do I do now? I'm used to, if you compete in a competition, normally there's some excitement afterwards. Maybe you go out for dinner, maybe you just, hang out talk with other participants, and it was just like done. So
that had to feel weird. Just a immediate, like, just you're up here with, like, you can feel the excitement kind of over Zoom, whatever excitement you can feel over Zoom. And then all of a sudden it's just like immediately just drops off, done. Like, I can imagine that would be kind of like a awkward feeling.
Definitely.
Yeah.
overall, it was really fun to be able to build our pitch, and definitely like the best thing. Obviously, it was amazing winning the most innovative, but the best experience that we got is connecting with our mentor, Janelle, and learning the learning process that we took. And I really think basically provided us a foundation for how to start this business. So it was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to kind of swing back around to, I think Allyson was talking about how like busy you guys were, and like how often you would meet up to work on this. So I was just curious if you guys think that if you weren't doing the pitch competition, like where you think you would be in the process, or if you would even be working towards kind of this place that you're at now.
It's hard because because we were assigned a mentor in our cultural entrepreneurship class as well. And he definitely was a catalyst in us really thinking our idea was tangible. Because I kind of think Madi and we first thought, because I joined her project. This was originally her idea. And I think we thought it was like, oh, going to be like a really cool class project. And then we met with our mentor from our course, and he was like, you guys should really do this. And we were like, what? And then we were really talking about it. But I feel like if we weren't in the competition, we would still be probably working towards it just because of our other mentor and him being a catalyst and us really having confidence in our idea, but maybe like slower. Like we wouldn't know as much as we do now or have had the experiences. Like everything we did in our class, we're kind of ahead on because we did it for the competition. And I think that if we didn't do the competition, we wouldn't have like done all of these things.
Yeah, there's something about a deadline that kind of lights a fire under you.
Definitely. And our mentor Lars for class, he's great. And then, I mean, without Janelle too, without both of them, like really pushing us and being like, no, this is good. You can do this. And just also how much we learned from Janelle and the people that she connected with us, even like she connected us with a marketing person to talk to. And we ended up talking to a different student from, I think he goes to UWS, who is extremely smart in the business field, and just getting different opinions and different advice from everybody really helped us formulate our idea and make it more tangible, more realistic, more grounded. So yeah, I agree with Allyson. I think that had we not done the competition, we'd probably still be working on it, but maybe with not quite as much passion, and it would probably be a little bit more like, what do we do now?
And I tell you, sometimes, I mean, all you need is like just a little bit of like extra guidance and a little bit of an extra push, and it does makes a huge impact.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, if you guys want to, you can share a little bit about like your idea. I understand if you don't want to share very much.
Yeah, so our idea is basically an idea that's made to connect tourists with the local culture. As we were mentioning earlier, culture is so important, and it's in everything that we do. It's in the places that we walk, the food that we go eat, the language that we speak. And based on that idea and both of our common passion for culture and the importance of culture is kind of where our idea is based off of. Yeah. Allyson, do you have anything to add to that?
I think because the idea is kind of, when you go somewhere, it's really easy to just kind of go to the same place that is like posted on social media, and people don't really get the feel for like the raw like city or the raw culture that is in the area that they're going to. And I don't know, we kind of want to create an experience. It's like hard to like describe it without describing it like on full.
Yeah.
We're hoping soon we'll be able to kind of release the idea. But in the meantime, what we're doing is in the next 3 months, we're really trying to build our relationships with local businesses. And really soon, we're going to be launching a website and our social media accounts. And they're basically going to be focused around why culture is important and why you should incorporate culture in your travel, as well as just some like fun travel things that we've done or that maybe other people have done. We haven't quite nailed down exactly what we're going to do. But kind of creating almost like a blog and trying to build our follower base to start with before we release our real idea. So.
Gotcha. Sounds very cool. So if there's somebody out there listening and they like want to follow your journey and they're eager to like learn more, later on down the road, what is something that they could search for to maybe find you guys on a social media app or on Google or something like that? Do you have an idea of like a name or something that they could look up? If not, that's totally fine.
You could probably try to start with Travel Bug. We haven't completely nailed down that name yet, but that's kind of the route we're thinking. We just have to make sure some legal things are okay with that before we start using it.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you could just search, Madison Brenengen, and I don't know if Allyson will have it on her social media accounts, but I'll definitely be posting it on my social media accounts. So that would be another way to kind of.
Great. And before we wrap up, before I ask you the last question, where, if somebody's listening and they want to kind of get involved in the cultural entrepreneurship major or learn more about it, who should they contact, or where is a place they could go to learn some more about it?
They should contact Dr. Aparna Khatri. She would love it. She would love people to reach out to her for the major. This major, I think, is super important. I think it's something that really needs a lot more acknowledgement because it's really beautiful. And I think this major really helps people grow as people, and kind of like what we're about the app a little bit. Sorry to backtrack a little. It's like people, I think, feel like culture or just having differences is uncomfortable. And I think a lot of it stems from fear, like for traveling for things other than just going to resorts and really getting a feel for the local community. I think some people feel uncomfortable because it's different. But I think something that cultural entrepreneurship does is it shows people that differences don't have to be uncomfortable. It allows us to learn from each other and then share those differences as seeing what's actually similar in our differences, if that makes sense. I don't know.
No, that makes perfect sense. Okay. No, that was actually perfect. I was going to ask for a main takeaway after that, and you just gave yours. I think so. Madi, if you have anything you want to say before we end the call, feel free.
Yeah. I guess just one other thing about the cultural entrepreneurship program.
Yeah.
UMD is the only school in the US that has the program. So they work with, I know they have a partner with Passau in Germany, who also has the program. But so even if you just look up cultural entrepreneurship, UMD will be the first thing that pops up because it's the only thing in the US that has it. But so yeah, that's kind of about that. But as far as the main takeaway, I really have to agree with Allyson in finding similarities in our differences, and how just kind of trying to normalize differences too, I guess. It's okay to be different, and it's okay to acknowledge other people's difference and accept other people's differences. And a lot of that comes from education and experiencing culture from the lens of multiple different people. And I think that that's really the main goal behind Travel Bug, or be that whatever name we end up with, is trying to bridge the gap between different cultures, specifically between people traveling to a place and the local culture there.
I love it. Yeah, that was a really good main takeaway, both of you. So this was great. I appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of share your experience and share a little bit about cultural entrepreneurship. I wish you guys the best on your journey with this app that you're going to be coming up. Well, that about wraps it up for today's episode. I'm really glad I was able to share Madi and Allyson's story with you guys. Thanks again for being on the show, Madi and Allyson. And thank you to everyone listening right now. I really do truly appreciate your support on this journey of this podcast. Now, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more amazing entrepreneurial stories and advice. Also, I encourage you to go check out studentbuiltstartups.com and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next episode.